Night falls over Milwaukee. The city streets breathe the chill of October 14, 1912. The evening crowd stirs outside the Gilpatrick Hotel. Somewhere in the darkness, a heart beats, slow, deliberate, nervous. Suddenly, a gunshot splits the night. Echoes ring. Panic wakes in every shadow. The crowd freezes in a single, stunned moment. Chaos threatens to break. The air turns sharp, almost electric. Footsteps scrape. Voices rise and fall, uncertain. A man stumbles on the hotel steps, blood staining his shirt, his hand pressed to his chest. A heartbeat, then another gunshot echoes in memory, not in sound. This is not just another city night. It is the night that will test the will of a former president and stun a nation. Milwaukee, for one instant, holds its breath. The story of that night starts with a gunshot and a heartbeat, but it will end with something far more remarkable. A wounded man rising to speak, refusing the darkness its victory. Theodore Roosevelt was no ordinary politician. He had been the 26th president of the United States. After leaving office, he took a break, an African safari, a European tour. But politics called him back. Disagreement with his successor, William Howard Taft, drove him to form a new party. The Bull Moose Party, as it quickly became known, was born of his energy and conviction. Roosevelt was campaigning hard. It was 1912, a year of fierce three-way rivalry. Woodrow Wilson led the Democrats. Taft clung to the Republicans. Roosevelt, older but undimmed, fought as a progressive, promising reform and a square deal for Americans. Crowds followed him everywhere. He was larger than life, his voice booming, his gestures decisive. That October night, Roosevelt was tired. He had spoken in 8 states in just 2 weeks. His schedule was relentless, yet he pressed on, refusing to slow down. In Milwaukee, he would speak again. One more stop on a campaign that already felt like a marathon. He did not know the danger waiting in the shadows. He did not know that his courage would face the ultimate test before he ever reached the stage. John Schrank was a drifter, a lone figure on the fringes of society. He lived in cheap hotels, wandering from city to city. He was born in Germany, raised in New York. Schrank was troubled, suffering from delusions. He believed a vision had commanded him to stop Roosevelt from seeking a third term. He made his way to Milwaukee, driven by these dark thoughts. On October 14th, Schrank waited outside the Gilpatrick Hotel. He clutched a .38 caliber Colt revolver, hidden in his pocket. He watched the crowd, eyes narrowed, searching for Roosevelt. Schrank was calm, even as his heart raced. He hated violence, or so he claimed later, but the voices in his head were louder than conscience. As Roosevelt exited the hotel, Schrank stepped forward. The former president, wearing a thick overcoat, paused to greet supporters. The crowd pressed close. Schrank lifted his arm. He fired. One shot, close range, aimed at Roosevelt's chest. The crowd surged. Roosevelt staggered. Blood bloomed on his shirt, but he did not fall. Schrank was seized, wrestled to the ground, his gun wrenched from his hand. The attack was over, but the night's true drama had just begun. The bullet hit Theodore Roosevelt square in the chest. It tore through his overcoat, but it did not stop there. In his breast pocket, Roosevelt carried 2 things: a thick, folded 50-page speech manuscript and a sturdy steel eyeglass case. The bullet struck both. The manuscript slowed the bullet. The metal case dented, absorbing some of the force. Still, the bullet entered Roosevelt's body. It lodged in his chest, just below the right nipple. Blood seeped, staining his crisp white shirt, spreading in slow, dark waves. He felt the shock and sting, but he did not collapse. Roosevelt reached inside his coat. He saw the blood on his fingers. He coughed, testing his lungs. No blood. He suspected the bullet had not struck anything vital. The crowd watched in horror, unsure if he would survive another minute. His aides rushed forward, urging him to go to the hospital. Roosevelt shook his head. He looked at the crowd, still waiting for his planned speech. He made a decision that would become legend, determined to face the crowd, and history itself, on his own terms. Pain throbbed in Roosevelt's chest. The bullet rested inside him, a hot, sharp presence. His aides pleaded with him to seek medical help. The car was waiting. But Roosevelt, blood soaking through his clothes, refused to leave. "He pinked me," he said gruffly, brushing off concern. He insisted on going to the Milwaukee auditorium. His supporters argued. Doctors warned him of the risk, but Roosevelt was resolute. He had come to deliver a speech, and so he would. The crowd still waited, unaware of the full drama outside. With steady steps he climbed into the waiting car. Every jolt sent pain through his chest. Still, he sat upright, holding the torn manuscript in his hand. At the auditorium, the hush was total. Word spread. Roosevelt had been shot, he was wounded, yet he was here. No one knew what would happen next. Would he collapse on stage? Would he survive the night? The tension was electric, every heart in the room pounding in time with his own. Roosevelt stepped onto the stage. The vast hall fell silent. His face was pale, lips drawn tight against pain. Blood seeped through his shirt, visible to those in the front rows. He held up the torn manuscript, a symbol of both fate and stubborn will. He began to speak. His voice was rough but strong. "Friends, I shall ask you to be as quiet as possible. I don't know whether you fully understand that I have just been shot, but it takes more than that to kill a bull moose." There was a gasp, then wild applause, but Roosevelt did not smile. He spoke for nearly 90 minutes. He coughed, sometimes pausing. Blood stained his clothes. The audience watched, transfixed and terrified. Every word, every gesture, was a struggle. Some feared he would die before their eyes. Yet he pressed on, finishing almost every line of his planned remarks. At last, he finished. Doctors rushed to his side. The crowd erupted in cheers, then hushed prayers. Roosevelt, drained, let himself be led away, the night's ordeal far from over. Roosevelt arrived at Johnston Emergency Hospital. The doctors acted quickly. They examined his wound, listening for signs of internal bleeding. The bullet was deep, but it had missed his lung and major blood vessels. That much was clear, but the risk of infection was real. X-rays revealed the bullet lodged in his chest muscle, too close to the heart and not safe to remove. Roosevelt lay on a narrow hospital bed, breathing shallowly. His pulse was weak, but steady. Crowds gathered outside, waiting for news. Across the country, newspapers raced to print headlines about the shooting. Doctors watched him through the night. They prescribed bed rest, painkillers, and careful observation. Roosevelt's family rushed to his side. He joked with the nurses, trying to reassure them, but the pain was real. He was no superhero, just a battered, determined man. In the days that followed, he began to recover. The bullet remained inside him, a silent reminder of the night he nearly lost his life, and of the speech he refused to leave unsaid. John Schrank did not run. He was arrested on the spot, subdued by Roosevelt's supporters and the police. He offered no resistance, answering questions quietly. He admitted to the shooting, explaining that a vision had commanded him. Schrank believed he was saving the country from a tyrant. Doctors soon examined him. They found Schrank insane, suffering from paranoid delusions. He was not part of any conspiracy. He had acted alone, driven by his own demons. The courts declared him not guilty by reason of insanity. Schrank was sent to the Central State Hospital for the Insane in Wisconsin. He would spend the rest of his life there. He never again tasted freedom. In letters, he seemed remorseful, but never fully sane. His act changed the course of an election, and nearly took a life. Yet history remembers him not as a villain, but as a troubled soul lost in the shadows of his own mind. The election of 1912 became a turning point in American politics. Roosevelt, wounded but undeterred, continued his campaign, but the bullet had taken its toll. He finished second to Woodrow Wilson, splitting the Republican vote. Taft came in third. Roosevelt's run as a third-party candidate was the strongest in United States history. His Bull Moose campaign left a legacy of new ideas about government, progressivism, and the power of a determined individual. The bullet, still lodged in his chest, became a symbol of his courage. He lived with it for the rest of his life. Roosevelt was not immortal. He did not shrug off pain. He was a man, flesh and blood, wounded, but unwilling to let fear win. The night in Milwaukee became legend not because he survived, but because he faced his darkest moment with jaw set and shoulders squared. His courage inspired millions. The story of the night he was shot, and still gave his speech, reminds us that leadership is not about being unbreakable. It is about standing up, wounded, and finding the strength to speak when it matters most.